I love how the show starts with Best of My Love by The Emotions. As one of the characters, Nicole, pulls into the country club, it sets the mood of the show. It makes it feel realistic. And some of the other things that make the show feel real are when they film outside and get that real sunlight, have video calls, show real food, and Karen Huger is a patron in the country club. Seeing Karen confirms that they are in the DMV. So Nicole meets up with her mom, Anita, at the country club. They get seated at a table reserved just for the Duprees, and they begin talking about her sister Dani and how she just got a divorce from her ex-husband Bill after he had an affair. They said that Dani started to get through it, but then she found out that Bill and his fiancée Hayley are getting married at the country club this week, and that set Dani off again. Anita tells Nicole she never liked Bill. She only tolerated him for the family because she saw all of the red flags. He used Dani to get to her father Vernon so that he could get ahead in his career as an attorney, and once his criminal law business took off, he showed his true colors. Anita and Nicole are waiting for Dani, but she was at home looking in the box, and inside of that box was an invitation to Bill and Hayley for their wedding. They had the nerve to send her an invitation, and her family too. She gets so mad that she throws 2 mugs across the room. Then her next door neighbor Vanessa, who happens to be a real estate agent, comes to visit and notices that the invitation is on the table, and she tells her she should have thrown it away just like everybody else who got one did. She tries to cheer her up by reminding her that her family rules this community and everybody is on her side, and her grandfather even built some of the homes in the community, and that she needs to stop thinking about Bill and Hayley, but she cannot. Dani tells Vanessa she needs to call her daughter Chelsea. She calls her, reminds her of her wardrobe fitting because she is her manager, and Chelsea gets annoyed. After Chelsea hangs up, she tells her cousin Kat that she wants to change her life and do a purse line instead of modeling, and her mom is a control freak. But she doesn't want to leave her mother because of what she's going through with her father. Nicole and her mom are also waiting for Naomi, who is Dani's daughter. She looks at her phone and says that Naomi is running a little late. Something came up, and then the scene goes to Naomi and she's rolling around in the bed with her husband. So after they're done getting dressed, she tells her husband that she is no longer talking to her father because he's getting married to her best friend. Now that just made things worse. Your father cheated on your mother, they got a divorce, and now she's with your best friend too? So they introduced Bill. He is a lawyer, and a friend of his came in and said that his son broke into somebody's home and was caught on camera. They want to press charges, and he wants to know if Bill can help him. Bill says I can actually make it go away. He makes a phone call, and he says it's done right after. His friend says, whatever you charge is worth it. Bill said, no charge, you just owe me one. I knew Bill was sneaky. Now that man has to owe him one? When we meet Hayley, she is walking into the hallway of her and Bill's new house to pick up the keys from Vanessa, the realtor. Hayley looks around excited and says that she can't believe she's moving into Fairmont Crest, which is the same neighborhood as the Dupree family. Vanessa says, you and Bill can live anywhere. Why would you want to live here? And she told her that basically the neighbors would not welcome her. But Hayley plans on trying to win the people over. Hayley tells Vanessa, thanks for your help and discretion. Vanessa was like, I'm just doing my job. Gives her the keys and says, good luck, you're going to need it. I can't wait till they show the inside of Bill and Hayley's house. Based on what it looks like on the outside, it looks like it's going to be real nice. Later on, Hayley goes over to the country club and is having a discussion with the wedding planner. Then Dani comes in soon after, and Hayley approaches her and tries to talk to her about how close her and the family were, but Dani wasn't having it. She said, I thought we were close too, especially with Naomi, who is Dani's daughter, being your best friend. Over at another restaurant, a diner named Orphe Jean's, Martin Richardson, who is a congressman and Nicole's son, meets up with his grandfather Vernon, and they talk about his career. A lady came over to the table and said that she was a fan of Vernon because he was involved in the movement back in the 70s, and that he was a senator. Also, she said that she was a fan of Anita and her singing group from back in the day. So that gave us a little background of the grandparents' history. One last couple we got introduced to, Derek and Ashley. This was Ashley's first day as a nurse at Garland Memorial Hospital. Derek cooked breakfast for her and told her he would take her to work and pick her up. She tells him how she always wanted to be a nurse and thanks him for his patience while she was in school. Then told him he was the only man that she would ever want. Now we know somebody's going to be cheating. And as soon as she gets to work, Andre Richardson, who is Nicole's husband's nephew, comes in and starts flirting with Ashley. I knew something was coming up. I didn't know it was going to be that soon. Back at the country club, Dani is still talking about Bill and Hayley. Martin and his grandfather join Anita, Dani, and Nicole. Nicole explains to her father they are trying to convince Dani that Bill is not worth the grief that he puts her through. Dani reminds everybody that she got married to Bill at 19 and her life revolved around Bill and their family. And now the girls are out of the house, Bill is gone, and she's angry. Kat and Chelsea are over at another table, and Kat asks Chelsea if she was mad or hates her father. And she said that she doesn't hate him, but she just doesn't like what he did. Naomi finally gets to the country club, and the three of them go over to join the rest of the family. Vernon grabbed Dani's hand, reminding her of who she was. It seemed like she just turned into a little girl when she was talking with him. She finally calms down and said maybe she should let it go. So they move on. The grandfather starts telling the story. They're having a good time. Everybody's laughing. And then the grandmother tells everybody about how proud she is of her family. And in runs Vanessa, the realtor. She tells them that Bill and Hayley just bought a house down the street in the neighborhood. She said she couldn't tell them before because of confidentiality, but now that they have closed on the house, she can tell it. And then Hayley had the nerve to come into the dining room. Dani gets up, and Anita tries to grab her, but she shakes her off. She walks over to Hayley and says, "It's bad enough you wanted to get married at the country club. Now you're moving into the neighborhood? That's not happening." She said, "Well, let me be the first one to give you a housewarming present." And then she punched her in the face. Then the whole family walked out one by one looking at Hayley and shaking their heads. But now when they got to Naomi, I wish Naomi had something to say to her because that was her best friend. I was cracking up at everybody's reaction in the background because the way they were looking after Hayley got hit, and then Cameron turns around and says, "Welcome to Fairmont Crest." This was a really good first episode. I enjoyed it. A lot of the characters were introduced and it kept my attention. What did you think of the episode? Comment below.